Hi everybody, I'm Masa, and in this episode of Masa Makes, I'm going to show you how I make pulled pork on my big green egg. So, I've got two bone-in pork shoulders here that I got from my favorite meat company that I always tell everybody about, Pape Meat over in Millbrae. They just came out of the cryovac, so they're a little damp, so I am going to pat them all off. I've put them in a large foil tray with paper towels underneath and all around, and I'm just gonna pat them dry here so I get all the extra moisture and everything off of them. You can see there's little wet spots here and there, so I just like to, to the extent I can, get all that extra juice off of there. And then I'll just take the paper towel, make sure I don't have any bits, put these down into the foil tray, and then that will make the next step of this a little easier, which will be adding my barbecue rub to it. We'll throw these into the composting. I will wash my hands. And then I'll show you how I apply the rub. Then we'll take a little break while this sits in the rub overnight in my refrigerator. And then tomorrow when I smoke it, I'll show everybody what I do to set up my big green egg to smoke. And how I set up the fire and the temperatures and everything else that I use. Okay, so I'm going to put the barbecue rub into this little canister here. This is a barbecue rub recipe I got from my friend Steve Garman probably 20 years ago or more. You can see I still have the card I wrote it on, taped to the outside of this jar. I put the barbecue rub into one of these because it makes it easy to apply and shake. I've loved this barbecue rub. I actually give it out as gifts at the holidays. We sometimes will put it in little nice packages and sell it for school fundraisers. So I just apply this really liberally all over the pork shoulder. But the nice thing is that it spreads. This has a combination of seasonings. There's typical things like paprika. It's got turbinado sugar. I actually like turbinado better than brown sugar, just because it seems to, I don't know, have a different quality to it. It's more granular. It seems to take on a different, I don't know why, but it takes on a different sort of, it makes a different sort of bark when you smoke as well. So you can see I'm just sprinkling this all over and just sort of patting it in so it adheres. But like I said, because this has these nice holes in the top, it really sprinkles out nicely instead of sort of pouring out. And I can control how I shake the seasoning out of it. But you know, and this is a rub. I know I have some friends actually that use it for grilling. I like it also on tri-tip. Because when you cook a tri-tip, it makes a really nice, it takes on a really nice strong flavor, and that matches well with beef. For pulled pork, it's nice that it's a little bit on the strong side too, because you know, you have a massive cut of meat here that has a ton of weight to it. And so even though you're seasoning a lot on the outside, you're not really seasoning the inside of that cut of meat at all. So I like to, one, let it sit overnight a little bit just to let whatever little bits of flavor can soak in. Maybe a little bit through like the dry brining process to do so. You know, it's not going to get way into the middle of the meat, but the other thing that's going to happen is we're going to shred this all into shreds anyways. So it's not like so it's all going to get stirred back together. So anyways, I learned how to barbecue from Steve back when I lived in Atlanta for a couple of years between college and law school. And I used to go over to him and his wife Dee Dee's house, And they used to have the most wonderful barbecues every weekend, and they would make all kinds of different things. And Steve sort of taught me a lot of different tricks and things that he had learned and figured out. One of the other things he taught me was start off with an electric smoker. They're really easy to use. You can control your temperature and you don't have to worry about fire. You'll still get a good smoke taste, and you'll sort of learn how things work without having to drive yourself crazy trying to figure out how to light a fire, how to maintain it over time, and do all of those things. And so I did. I started off with a little Brinkman electric smoker. It was like $50 at Home Depot, I think. I used that for years. And then eventually I upgraded to a Cook Shack smoker, which is an electric smoker, but it's a much more heavy duty insulated smoker. It looks like a small, like a college refrigerator, but it's built like a tank. Upgraded that. It's a lot more controllable. The heat is much more stable. It's basically works on the opposite premise that Aaron Franklin talks about for a lot of his Franklin barbecue, which is he likes convection. He likes a lot of air movement. But what that smoker does is it has very little air circulation, and it holds a lot of the smoke into the chamber, and it keeps the moisture into the cooking chamber as well. So you don't really end up with much moisture loss, and your meat stays very tender. It's almost like you smoke it, bake it, and steam it all at the same time. And so I love that Cook Shack. I still have it. And then a while back, I got a Big Green Egg, and the Big Green Egg, to me, although expensive, is probably the most versatile of the cookers you can get, because it's so well insulated that you can do low and slow cooking with charcoal and just put one very large batch of charcoal in it with some wood, and then use that to smoke. You can also do very high heat searing, and it also is a great tool for outdoor pizza. And so you can get it up to 800 or 900 degrees very easily, and do very high heat, thin crust Neapolitan style pizzas. And we've even had some parties where we did that. So these pork butts, you can see I've just seasoned them very thoroughly all over. And then what I do is I just leave them in this foil tray. And I will put some press and seal over the top of this so that it's sealed up. I'll throw them in the refrigerator overnight. And then tomorrow we will take these out early in the morning after I've got a fire going, and we will get them on the smoker. Okay, hi everybody, I'm back. While we're waiting for that pork to continue just hanging out in the refrigerator with the barbecue rub on it, I was going to show you how I make, I guess what's a North Carolina vinegar barbecue sauce. This is a recipe, it's almost directly from Stephen Rakelin's book, How to Grill. I toned down the spicy aspects of it just a little bit because my kids just won't like it if it's that hot. But basically it's mostly apple cider vinegar, and then just got a little bit of various seasonings, but it's one of those things that when you put this on pulled pork, it's what really makes it outstanding. So 2 cups of cider vinegar to start. I use these little plastic containers here. I love them for this purpose because they are really, really simple to use. You can wash them and reuse them. But then you can also just put everything in and give it a quick stir and just store it in the refrigerator. So we've got 2 cups of cider vinegar, 3 tablespoons of ketchup going in. Then I have 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 4 teaspoons of kosher salt. This is probably maybe a half a teaspoon of chili flakes, about a teaspoon of black pepper, and then I'm not going to put in a whole ton of hot sauce. I think I'm just going to put in maybe a quarter of a teaspoon, maybe half a teaspoon. This is a brand called Lucky Dog. They're local to the Bay Area. This is their El Perro Afortunado. It's fire roasted tomato and 4-pepper salsa, or a hot sauce, and we really enjoy that one quite a bit. interesting thing about Lucky Dog is we used to live in Hayward, and we used to go to the Hayward Farmers Market, and they were always selling their hot sauce there. And now I think they've expanded quite a bit, and they're selling at a lot more farmers markets. And they have quite a variety now, from much more mild sauces to very, very, very spicy ones. So as you can see, I'm just taking this, stirring it around, just going to put a lid on it and put it in the fridge. And then once we have the pork off the smoker and it's had a chance to hang out and rest, we will then shred it, and then we will be putting this sauce all over it as well. So I will get this into the fridge, and I will see you all in a little while. Okay, so it's early morning right now. I have gotten up and I've just got a fire started in my big green egg. I just figured I'd show everybody what it looks like. You can see I've got charcoal filled all the way up to the bottom of the smoke box. I also have 4 blocks of apple wood in there, and I've put a fire starter in the middle. Now I wanted to actually show this point because it's one of the crucial points where I'm actually going to turn the temperature way down on the big green egg right now. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to substantially close this damper here. I'm also going to put in my ring with my grill on it. And then one of the things I put into my big green egg is I like to put hard cider into this foil pan, drip pan here under my cooking grate. And I'll also put some water in mixed with that too. And that'll help keep the atmosphere in here moist while the my pork butt is smoking a little later. So I'm going to put these in here now. Put this other one. So now I'll have some moisture in here. This will also drop the temperature in the egg a little bit. I'm going to close this grate. I have this smokeware chimney cap that I'm going to put on. And you'll see the smokeware cap has its own holes in it, its vent here as well. And they're on multiple sides. I'm just going to close that over. I'm going to let the heat build up in the big green egg. I'm going to try to get to somewhere between 275 and 285. And once I get there and I have clean smoke coming out, I will then put the pork butts on. Okay, we're back out here. I've got temperatures around 275 degrees in my big green egg. Smoke has cleaned up quite a bit. It's a lot wispier and thinner than it was before. It's not quite as thick and cloudy. So I'm going to put these pork butts on. You'll see I put a temperature probe in each one of them. And then I will connect each of those to a remote thermostat so that I can track the temperatures on where they're at. To rearrange these a little bit just to make sure I get the wires out, and I will do that, and I will check back in on these in a few hours. Okay, hi everybody, I'm back. I'm just going to show you we're about 5.5 hours into cooking right now. We're about 140 some odd degrees on the 2 different pork butts. One of the things I just wanted to show too that's really interesting is the dome temperature on my big green egg is listed at about 325, or is showing up at about 325 right now, but the actual temperature probe I have on the grate has the grate at around 275 or 270 to 275. So there's quite a big disparity between the two things. I don't know the science or why that happens, but it does show the importance of actually tracking the grate temperature when you're cooking. So what I also want to show you is, here's where we're at right now. And I like to, if I'm getting any dry areas, spritz off the pork butts a little bit. So I just have a little bit of apple cider mixed with water. So if they're getting a little dry looking, just spray off the edges a little, just to add a little moisture to it. And that'll just help keep the bark getting a nice texture and getting crispy without getting just hard and sort of an unpleasant crunch to it. So I'm gonna let that keep cooking, because you know what they say, if you're looking you ain't cooking. So I'm gonna leave this alone and let it keep coming up to temperature, and then I'll check it and spritz it every so often, and then later on today I'll pull all of this off the grill and I will shred it and add the vinegar barbecue sauce. Okay, here we are, moment of truth. My pork butts have pretty much finished smoking, so I'm going to be pulling them off now, and I'll show you just generally what I do with them to rest them. In essence, here you go, I have 2 pork butts. They're nice and well smoked. I am going to pull both of these off. I'm going to set them in this foil tray right here. And what I'm going to do then is wrap that in foil and drop the whole thing into a cooler. And I'm going to let it sit for at least an hour, maybe a couple of hours, and let it sort of come up to temperature, or let it let the meat sort of relax, reabsorb its juices. And then I'll shred it all up and add vinegar barbecue sauce to it and put it all back together. So without further ado, I'll show you. I just basically just pull these off. I use one of these silicone gloves that's high temperature rated, and then I like to use these little sort of like spatulas from you can get them at Smart and Final or any of those kinds of places, because they can slide under the whole piece of meat and you don't have to worry about anything falling off of there. I've had other problems where you try to pick up a piece of meat and it's so gelatinous that the piece of meat just falls apart in your hands, and then you end up holding this thing, this really hot piece of pulled pork or something else that's coming apart on you. So anyways, I will get both of these off. And you notice I'm scraping under the whole thing, because sometimes, because the rub has sugar in it, that rub will result in things sticking to the grill, or to the grill grate, I should say. I was trying to steal that piece of pork, but I'm not going to be able to get it. And then you'll end up losing a bunch of your meat down onto the bottom of the grill because it sticks when you pick it up. So anyways, I'm going to shut down the big green egg, top and bottom, and I'm going to go put all of this in the kitchen. And so once this is ready to shred, I will rejoin in a little bit. All right, here we are. Time to shred this pulled pork. It's been hanging out in a cooler for a little over an hour. Fully covered, just staying warm, resting, doing its thing. I'm gonna throw this piece of foil away. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to just start to shred this up. You can see we have a nice, it's very moist. The bones in there, meat's coming right off the bone. We've got a nice smoke ring on this, nice and pink meat around the edges, great bark. So I'm going to shred all this up, get it off the bone. And then the next thing I'll do is I'm going to take some vinegar barbecue sauce and put it on there. And I don't shred it up too fine before I put the vinegar barbecue sauce on. And the reason for that is if you shred it up too fine and then start adding all of it and then start, you know, spinning it all to incorporate all the sauce, a lot of times what happens is you end up with really, really fine shreds. And I like to have mine a little chunkier at least and have a little more substance to it rather than having it be little strings of pork. Everybody's different though. And so you can, you know, do it how you like. But either way, you can see we've got nice moist pulled pork with a nice smoke ring on it. Great bark. And I think this is going to end up being a really nice dinner for us. We're also going to share it with some of our neighbors too, who really love barbecue and I guess have been interested in trying some of the pulled pork for a while. And so I'm going to bring that over there either tonight or tomorrow. So anyways, you can see the meat's just pulling right off the bones. And then then you just shred it, pull it apart. I'm going to take a little break and finish shredding the rest of this since it's a lot and you don't need to see me do all of it. And then I will come back when I'm adding the barbecue sauce. Okay, here we go. Final stage. Pork is all shredded up. You can see we have nice shreds here. Like I said, I like to leave it a little bigger so it's not too, so it doesn't shred up into too fine of a little strings when I put the sauce on it and keep mixing it. But we're going to mix this vinegar barbecue sauce up a little bit and just put this right on here. I am very liberal with it. I think it really is the key ingredient over all the pulled pork. We already have the bark, we already have the smoke flavor, we have everything else, but this is just that little thing that puts it over the top. So I'm gonna put this in here and then just stir it. I just use tongs. Try to get it mixed through. You see we have nice bark mixed through with the pork here. Ended up being very juicy and tender. Shredded apart really easily. I didn't show the whole shredding process because shredding 2 whole pork bucks just takes a lot of time. It was originally, before cooking, I think 16 or 17 pounds of meat and bone, and so no reason to have everybody sit through that. I do this part by taste, so there's no real way for me to tell you exactly how much of the sauce I put in. So you're going to see me actually just do that right now. Yep, needs a little more sauce. Probably going to use up this whole container and a little bit of the next one. Okay. You can see the shreds are already becoming smaller and smaller as I stir this around, which is why I didn't pull it apart too much when I did it with the claws. So, all right. Let's taste it again. That's actually pretty good right there. I may add a little bit more, but that is my pulled pork with a North Carolina style vinegar barbecue sauce. It ended up smoking for about 11 hours. I let it rest for a little over an hour after that. So total time from the time I put it onto the grill until the time it was ready to eat now is about 12 hours, plus the time it took to get the big green egg up to temperature. So we will post a picture of this on a plate once it's all served up and ready to go. My wife made some cornbread, and we're going to have some coleslaw with it. All right, thanks for checking in.